Raise your self-concept, and you raise your life not because you found a better technique, but because you finally stopped looking for one and started living from the state where what you want is already true. You don't need to repeat a sentence thousands of times. You don't need another affirmation stack. You don't need to perfect your visualization until it feels cinematic. You need one thing only, and that is to land in the state of already having it, and then keep returning to that state until it becomes your natural way of being. When you watch video after video on manifestation, when you've heard every technique, every secret, every ultimate method, something inside you starts to whisper that maybe it's not about the method at all. And that whisper is right, because Neville Goddard's core teaching was never about the perfect ritual. It was about the shift in identity, the quiet knowing that your self-concept is your destiny, and that your outer world is only a mirror reflecting what you already accept as true about yourself. So if you keep trying to change your life without changing who you believe you are, you will keep rearranging furniture in a house that still has the same foundation, the same walls, the same ceiling of limitation. Think about it. Every time you chase a new technique, you are subtly telling yourself, I don't have it yet, I need something more, I need to do something else. And that very posture keeps you in the state of wanting, of lack, of not yet. But manifestation is not about perfecting the wanting. It is about occupying the having. It is about standing in the consciousness of the wish fulfilled so completely that your nervous system, your emotions, your inner conversations all begin to echo the tone of someone who already lives that reality. You are not trying to convince the universe. You are reminding yourself of who you already are in imagination, where creation is finished and every desire already exists as a state you can step into now. This is why raising your self-concept is the long-term solution, because it is the only thing that sustains results, instead of giving you a temporary spike followed by a crash back into doubt. When you operate from a higher self-concept, you don't need to force your thoughts. You don't need to police every affirmation. You don't need to monitor your vibration every 5 minutes. You simply return, again and again, to the inner posture of the person who has it. And that repetition is what makes the state natural, habitual, and eventually automatic. Neville said that the key to making a new state natural is frequency, not in the law of attraction sense, but in how often you return to it, how often you occupy it, how often you let your imagination dwell there until it feels more real than the 3D that used to define you. So let's be brutally honest. You have already watched 1,000 videos. You have already tried 100 techniques. You have already affirmed, visualized, scripted, and tracked your signs until your brain feels like a manifestation spreadsheet. And yet something still feels off because you're still approaching this from the side of effort instead of the side of identity. What if the breakthrough you are looking for is not another method, but a decision? A quiet, firm decision that from this moment on, you will measure your progress, not by how many times you repeated an affirmation, but by how quickly you return to the state where it is done. What if the real work is not in doing more, but in being more? In letting your inner conversations, your inner tone, your inner posture all align with the version of you who already lives the life you say you want. This does not mean you ignore your desires or pretend they don't matter. It means you stop treating them as distant futures and start treating them as present facts in your imagination, as states you can enter right now by simply assuming them. When you desire a state, you already have it in potential. The question is whether you will occupy it, whether you will let your imagination live there, whether you will let your inner speech reflect the confidence of someone for whom this is already true. And the moment you do that, the moment you stop wishing and start knowing, your outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself around that inner conviction, because your reality is always the outpicturing of your self-concept, not your effort. You might be thinking, but what about the days when the 3D screams otherwise? When the bank account, the relationship, the body, the circumstances all contradict what I'm trying to assume? And the answer is simple. That 3D is old news. It is the echo of who you used to be. It is the leftover momentum of past assumptions, and it will fade as you persist in the new state. You do not need to argue with it. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to analyze it. You simply return to the state where it is done. You let your imagination rest there. You let your inner conversations reflect the tone of fulfillment. And over time, the outer catches up because it must. This is why you don't need to repeat a sentence thousands of times. Repetition without state is just noise. It is just mental gymnastics that keep you in the consciousness of trying. What changes your life is not how many times you say, I am abundant, but whether when you say it, you are actually touching the feeling of abundance, the inner posture of someone who does not need to chase, who does not need to prove, who simply knows, and that knowing is not loud. It is quiet, it is calm, it is the kind of certainty that does not need to announce itself, because it is too busy living. So here is the invitation. Stop looking for the perfect technique and start practicing the art of returning. Return to the state where you have it. Return to the inner conversations of the person who lives that reality. Return to the feelings of relief, of gratitude, of normalcy that come when something is no longer a dream but a fact. Do this not once, not twice, but often enough that it becomes your default, your habit, your new normal. Because that is how states become natural. That is how self-concept shifts. That is how your destiny is rewritten. And while you're doing that inner work, while you're practicing the quiet discipline of returning to the state where it's already done, know that you're not alone in this. I'm quietly building something for those of you who know you've outgrown your current identity. Something to help you step into the version of yourself you know you're capable of becoming. Launching on or before September 1st, more soon. You do not need to force it. You do not need to strain. You do not need to make it complicated. You simply imagine a scene that implies fulfillment. You feel it real. You let it saturate your inner world, and then you go about your day carrying the quiet confidence of someone who knows it is done. And when doubt comes, when the old story tries to pull you back, you do not fight it. You just return again and again to the state where you already have it. Because that is the only work that matters. That is the only thing that changes your life in a way that lasts. Raise your self-concept and you raise your life. Not because you found a better hack, but because you finally stopped hacking and started living from the end. You don't need another technique. You don't need to repeat a sentence thousands of times. You just have to land in the state where you already have it and return to the state often until it becomes so natural that your outer world has no choice but to reflect it. This is the long-term solution. This is what sustains results. This is how you stop chasing and start being the person who already lives the life you say you want. I hope this helped you. Subscribe, and I'll meet you with another golden nugget soon. Happy manifesting.